Hi everyone, Red Sea Reefer here and welcome to this latest Focus Friday video. Today I'm going to show you some stuff about fragging your corals. So as you might already know, it's fairly easy to frag most corals in your tank, and by fragging them you cut off or take off little pieces of the coral, glue them to a new rock or other kind of placeholder where you will put it, and then you can either let it grow in your tank again, or you can trade it, or you can sell it. Basically, you can do whatever you like. And that way, of course, it's a very efficient way of expanding your coral collection, since you can easily also buy frags from other people. Especially in the Netherlands, frags are pretty popular. Maybe because the Dutch people are kind of cheapish, so they always like to get most value for as less money as possible. And well, that's why yeah, you see frags a lot in the Netherlands. I'm not sure about how it's in your country. In the United States, I know it's also pretty popular. But it's an easy way to get some kind of exclusive coral for, well, not without spending hundreds of dollars or euros on it. So it's a very efficient way. And of course, also when corals are growing too large, then it's a nice way of trimming them down and creating some more space for other corals to grow. So first, let's go over the various tools that I'm using to frag my corals, and then I'll give you a tour around the tank and explain how I frag each coral and if it's fraggable at all, since some corals are very hard to frag. So let's start off with the tools. Right here you can see the different tools that I'm using. From left to right, there's a pair of they're not pliers, they're pincers. So this one is especially made for fragging coral. It's a very thin one, with which you can easily break the branches of like a Stylophora or a Montipora. So it's a very easy to use tool. Then sometimes this little hole is too small for the branches, so I'm using regular ones, regular pincers, which open up a bit more. But yeah, these also kind of rusty, so I don't like to use them a lot. Then there's this spatula, which I'm using for removing the green star polyp from the back of the tank, for example, or other types of corals that are flat against some surface. Then a knife, which is easy to cut, and I'll explain later on which I'm using that. And of course, a pair of scissors, especially for leathery corals. There you can easily just snip them and take off little pieces. So this is the collection of tools that I'm using, and well, if you're going to frag corals, then these are the main tools that you can use. As you can see, not all specialized tooling is except for the left one. So let's start off on the right of the tank with this toadstool soft leather coral. I'm actually using scissors to frag this one. As you can see, I have fragged this one before. This is still the original growth, and then here at the back I have removed quite a substantial bit by using scissors. So just take the coral out and use the scissors to literally cut out a piece, and well, you can do with it whatever you like. So although it seems kind of cruel, it's a very easy and efficient way to remove pieces from this kind of coral. Here you can see it even better. The original stem is still there. So the next coral, which is also quite easy to, or a lot easier to frag, because well, when you're using scissors to cut the toadstool, it's quite an operation. But when you want to use scissors as well, you can use them on these gorgonians. Gorgonians are rather easy to frag, since you can just literally cut off a piece with a pair of scissors. It goes for all types of gorgonians, which you might have seen in the last video last week. Yeah, they all cut pretty easily, so that's not a big issue. Like I mentioned, I'm using the spatula for removing the green star polyp from the back of the tank. I've actually done that, and it's already started regrowing. As you can see here on the top, it was growing all the way to the top and over it. So what I first did with a knife, I cut it off about 4 to 4 centimeters below the water surface. So just make with a knife, cut a line, and then use the spatula to remove the top half, and then I've put it back here. So the entire piece that I took off with the spatula, I re-glued it to this part of the tank, and I'll show you from the left as well. Like this. This way you can easily see that it's an effective way of fragging the green star polyp. For SPS, it's best to use the pincers that I've shown you before. The branches are often not that thick, so you can easily use the pincers to cut off a small hand, like for example here or here. There's some reflections on the screen. The same goes for Montipora. Like I show you here, you can cut it easily. And other kind of SPS corals mainly that are branched. So for example, here's one of the frags that I made especially for this video. As you can see, easy to cut off, and then attach to a new spot on the reef somewhere. So then, somewhat harder corals to frag are zoanthus. They're often attached to the surface of the rock, and that can make it a bit tricky to frag these. I think the most harmless way to frag zoanthus is by using a hose, and then using the end of the hose to suck them up, and just, it's a bit hard to explain. You just put the base of the hose near the polyp, and then you scrape it a bit, and then it will come off, and through the hose it will go into like a bucket. But you can also just use a knife. You can do that either in the tank or take the colony out. Use a knife to remove them. But it's a pretty you have to be cautious. Also, of course, always be cautious when fragging zoanthus, since they can release some toxins. You don't want to get that into your eye. So always use caution when fragging zoanthus, but the knife is the best tool for it. Some harder to frag corals are goniopora. Actually, I have not found a successful way to frag them, but they usually propagate out of themselves, so they will create little balls that will fall off eventually, which then you can pick up, and then you have a frag. For these Duncans, it's a bit hard to show since they're fully extended right now, but these are also branches which you can use the pliers to frag. Pincers, I mean, of course. So use the pincers. And these kind of Montipora plates, I find it easiest to just break it off using your hand, since it's a pretty delicate material. So the best thing is just to feel with your hands, and make an educated guess on whether it will break off at the right spot. Same goes for this Montipora. So I'm not using tools for that, I'm just using my hands. And I think that covers most of the different kind of species of corals and how to frag them. So effectively, most corals can be fragged, especially so apart from the larger polyps, corals like the goniopora or lobophilias or trachyphilias. They are very hard to frag. But other than that, you're good to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you in the next one. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.